Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are tuning in to listen to this webinar. My name is Louis Carr. I will be your host today. As you can see on hopefully the slide that you see, we are from Actian and Plurilogic. I am a Senior Director of Product Marketing with Actian. We're just going to give it a moment for all the attendees to join. So we'll get going in about 2 minutes. I want to say up front, let all of you know that we are recording this webinar so that it is available on demand. So with that, I'm going to give it just a couple of minutes for folks to join. Okay, we'll get started now. So I'm going to just give you a bit of a background on Actian and the overview of what we're going to cover on this webinar today. And the bulk of the time we are going to devote to the actual topic, which is how you look at choosing the right application when you're doing data management out in a multi-platform mobile world. So a little bit about our speakers. I will tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll have Andre and Sakis say a little bit about themselves. Again, I'm your host. I've been with Actian for a couple of years now. I'm in charge of the product marketing for the Actian Zen product line, which is one of the key underlying components to the solution that Plurilogic is going to describe today. I've had the honor and pleasure of working in several different companies in various marketing positions, such as product marketing, etc., at Sun, HP, BEA, and Oracle. And prior to that, I had the privilege of working as an engineer and a software developer at Motorola and Stanford Research Institute. Andre, a quick note about yourself.
Yes, I'm Andre Beauchamp. So I'm the founder and president of Plurilogic since '93. So it's we've been working with schools mainly for about that lapse of time. I'm mainly the lead technologist for the company. So I basically look at everything that's concerned research and development and things like that. So I have over 40 years of programming right now. So it's a long time. So basically what I do. So Sakis?
Yes, hi, and I'm Sakis Spirou. I'm the product manager here at Plurilogic since 2016. By trade, I'm a software developer, but for the past 20 years, I've been doing mostly project management, product management, and working at all levels of technology. I've led digital operation roles for large PR firms like Edelman and National here in Canada. And that's it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I, again, want to thank both of you for taking the time to join this webinar. And I'm sure our audience will find everything that you're about to tell them really compelling and exciting. I guess between the three of us, we have over 100 years of experience. And therefore, I thought it was kind of funny to stick the elephants behind us. Well, so what are we going to cover today? So a little bit about the companies, in addition to the points we've already given you about ourselves. The marketplace that the solution that Sakis and Andre are going to describe, a little bit about that, the demands for and the requirements for the types of tools and the data management required in this marketplace, Then Sakis is going to go in real detail over the actual solution, and then a description of how they determined that the underlying data management solution was appropriate based on several different factors, including performance, persistence, etc. We'll then have a quick question and answer period, and then we'll wrap up. So Actian. We've been around for quite a while. We've had the privilege of working with Pluralogic as an OEM partner for, I think, the entire time or close to it that we've been a company ourselves, so over 20 years. We've watched the entire marketplace evolve. We really believe that next shift in the evolution will be around hybrid data. And that's our real focus, is handling hybrid data from a data management, integration, and analytics perspective. We are currently a very profitable, over $100 million company. We've got over 10,000 customers globally. And we now have the backing through an acquisition of our company about a year and a half ago, the backing of a company worth $10 billion in the form of HCL, a well-known multinational systems integrator, and a private equity firm, Sumeru. We've got over 300 employees. We're in 15 countries, and you know, we really understand innovation in this space. The key innovation that we are going to be focused on today is the Actian Zen platform for edge data management. The beauty of this platform is that you can embed it into virtually any application, either at the programmatic level, the scripting level. You can also place it as a standalone database and query it through a command line interface. It has both NoSQL capabilities through a very straightforward API that, again, can be embedded in pretty much any language, as well as standard SQL, ANSI standard, that is, ability to do a structured query language. In both cases, it goes through a very small, very flexible database engine. And that engine can handle pretty much any type of data, whether it be traditional structured or semi-structured data, whether that data is being delivered in a time series format, or you're accessing it transactionally and having to query it, etc. It pretty much will handle a real flexible environment because it's based on a simple key value store. It will run on pretty much any operating environment and on any 64-bit platform, whether that be Intel or ARM. So it's a very modular, flexible system. And the reason we, are focused on that in this particular webinar is that if you really look at the data management required at the edge, it's changing. It's changing because there's a fragmented market out there, and that fragmentation, while not as significant in the mobile as in the IoT space, is still significant in the sense that if you're dealing with mobile smartphones and tablets, then there is no way around supporting at least 3 platforms. That is the Android, the iOS, and the Windows platform for things like a Surface. The IoT market is even more fragmented because there you also have to look at a multitude of different variants of embedded Linux, executive kernels that are below the level of a full-fledged operating environment. And so if you are designing applications and building applications for this space, there's no way you can go to a best-in-class siloed data management solution for a single or even a couple of these operating environments. You really have to support many of them. The other reason is that even if you write an application that's focused on one particular platform, the need to be able to support multiple platforms is still going to be out there because there's so much in the way of applications that require peer-to-peer sharing of data or coordination of a process, or the application can be distributed across these multiple platforms. The other issue then is that those platforms, because of sporadic or periodic need to handle the operations locally on that device require that the data be persistent on that device. So to make a long story short, and by the way, we have more detailed white papers on our website that go into this in excruciating length when you have the time to review this at your leisure. But in summary, really, there is no way around requiring a data management system that is multi-platform, real-time, and it can handle local data processing and analytics. And this is, a scenario that we've been looking at for quite some time, particularly with our OEM partner here, Plurilogic. And it's something where we've already been working with them in much more of a traditional client server setting where they would work with us on the successor the predecessor to the more extensive mobile platforms that Zin can address now, where Zin would address things formerly branded P-SQL for traditional Windows and Linux systems. And I don't want to go into this too deeply because I'll steal their thunder. And also we want to make sure we leave time to go through the actual mobile solution that is the focus for today's session. So, without further ado, I would recommend that we go over to hear from Sakis and Andre directly on Plurilogic. Sakis, Andre?
Yes, we're here. Thank you, Luis. So we'll start with a little background on the company. We're an independent software company specializing in education. The company was founded by Andre Beauchamp in 1983, and we are located in Laval, Quebec, which is a suburb of Montreal. We currently have 20 full-time employees, and the company is growing rapidly. We're the leading school information system for private schools in Quebec, although we do have a small share of the public sector as well. Our software has been implemented in more than 100 schools, and it's currently being used by over 250,000 users on a daily basis. We are, as Andre said earlier, we're OEM partners since 2016, but we've been working with Axian since 1983. So what was the first version of
91?
91, okay.
91, that was the first software that we developed specifically for schools. Before that, we were developing another kind of software, but like insurance, things like that. But in 91, we started our first program. And basically, that's still the legacy software that we're using. We have a lot of things over that, but I would say 80% of the original structures and data are still used today. We just add new things around it.
So working with the technology since 91, officially partners since 2016. We're also technology partners, and I think as a reward for our partnership, we got awarded the Axian Breakthrough Partner Award in 2018. Switch to the next one.
Oh, it's working.
All right. So the purpose is not to present our product, but we would like to give you an overview of our product so that you understand how data is important and how Axian is a vital partner for the success of our solutions. So this is a diagram that gives an overview. At the middle, the blue part is it's the collection of all of our functional components or modules that we've built over the past 30 years. And I'm sorry.
Okay, no good. Oh, sorry.
And just to name a few, these are there's a lot of them, but we kind of summed up, just the most important ones, which makes the core of the platform. So you have a student information system, an SIS that we call in the industry, which offers record keeping, student health records, attendance records, student behaviors and follow-ups, and finally report cards, exam records, marks, anything that a school needs to operate. We offer a lesson planning module, which is an LMS or a CMS, a content management system, used by the teachers to publish interactive courses, content, exams, questionnaires, quizzes, anything that the student will use to embellish the course plan and evaluate the progress. There's a communication module which is core to the platform, because messaging and communication amongst all stakeholders is very important. So we've developed our proprietary messaging system, basically an email that is secure and it's fast, and we have to ensure that it's delivered. So we didn't want to go with a third-party emailing system. And in the past years, we added more modern ways of communicating. For example, push notification on the mobile device, SMS, and others. Our finance HR module, which is one of the first modules that we developed for schools, that includes accounts receivable, payable, a timesheet module for teachers and staff, and payroll. We have we offer a before and after school programs and activities management. For example, parents can subscribe their children to courses like karate courses or trips using the portal or the mobile app. Admissions, a library management system for keeping track of library resources, check-in, check-out, reservation, etc. And finally, on top of all this, we have an analytics and reporting module, which is basically data aggregation of historical data. Schools collect a lot of data over the years, and data is very important for them to make decisions and get insights from school activities. And we're actually working on some sort of AI advanced analytics, where we want to also give predictive information, like identify students that are at risk of failing, using attributes like attendance, results, and other information. So all these components are being administered in the back end by, as you see on the left hand side, a set of legacy apps, which are desktop applications that are on a client server architecture. So this was the first generation of our applications. And over the time, as you see on the right hand, we added the web and mobile over the past 20 years, which is being used by all stakeholders, like teachers, parents, students, and administrators to use these modules and communicate, which is the essence of the platform. So to get that integration, because our objective is to offer a one-stop solution for our schools, we leaned on Actions database, which is the underlying system that allows us to have this tight integration. As Andre says, it's our secret sauce. All right, now we'll just go a little bit over the mobile app, which is the app that we use, Zen Core. So it's the mobile app was launched in 2016. It's been used by over 200,000 I would say devices, not users, because users have multiple devices. And the objective of the mobile app is to engage all stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, administrators, in a convenient way to improve communication and collaboration towards student achievement. That's our main objective. I'll show a few interfaces of the app and how each stakeholder uses the app, the mobile app. For example, here's a teacher interface where, for example, teachers can take attendance and late arrivals. They can track student behavior. They can publish content like tasks, assignments, questionnaires, etc. As you see on this screen grab, this is the attendance taking module, where teachers can either take attendance or late arrivals. Yeah, this is an example of a student interface where students will use the mobile app to check their schedule, their agenda, course material, and homework. They can do research for library resources. They can make purchases of the cafeteria, etc. There's a number of features for the student. Here's an example of a course content. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, course content where we see, homework, and there's an exam that could be, taken online. It could be an evaluated exam or a non-evaluated. Students can track the progress of their homework, keep notes, and anything that's needed to do their work. Next. All right, this is a parent interface where the parents will use the mobile app to track their students' activity, their children's activity. They can signal absences and late arrivals. They can access financial information, and finally, they can inscribe students to their activities.
Just by the way, the interface is bilingual French and English. Even if you see some French term hide this screen.
Right. All right, and finally, administrators. So the most important aspect of the app is that they have data at their device at any time. So at any time they can check student records. Here's an example where an administrator could check at any time the information on the student. For example, if they don't have access or if there's an emergency, they have student data at their device. They can send alerts and notifications. They can monitor workload. And finally, they have a series of reports and dashboards that they use on a daily basis. All right. So this was an overview of the mobile app. Before we designed and built the mobile app, there were some things that we took into consideration for our use case. So for us, it was important to have multi-platform support for iOS, Android, and Windows. It's the reality of schools. We have one-to-one programs or bring your own device programs that require full support. Plurilogic does not have any mobile development native development skills. We're mostly backend developers or front-end developers. Schools have limited budgets, and often their data centers lack infrastructure resources. So we had to design a solution that would not add further burden to their infrastructure. Very important for a school to have the offline experience. Mobile users must be able to work without a network connection due to poor or even non-existent connections. Often a teacher will be in the schoolyard without any connectivity or on a school trip. So they need to have data available to them at any time. Prudent on bandwidth usage for apps that depend on server data. Students often don't have data plans, so we have to be conscious of that. Mobile computing devices tend to have slower CPUs and limited battery life, so we had to be very effective in the way we designed and implemented the solution, so that the resources on the device are very effective. And finally, we're aware that students or in general users have multiple devices, either smartphones or tablets, so we need to synchronize all these devices. Next. All right. To build our application, we looked at different options. As I said earlier, native was not an option due to the lack of the skill set. So we looked at the trends in the industry, and we saw that there's a move towards hybrid apps, and the industry is moving away from native. As we see this diagram here, which is from a survey that was done by the Ionic development community since 2015, the trend is towards hybrid or a mix of hybrid and native apps. And the main driver for this move is developers want to have a single code base that's written once and can run on multiple platforms. This approach will reduce the cost of the per platform development, will bring new products to the market rapidly. And in our case, because we have both a web and a mobile app, we can achieve code reuse, which is very important. We have limited resources, so we gotta be able to manage both the mobile and the web with the same pool of developers. To do this, we looked at different CPTs in the market. The most popular ones are Cordova, Xamarin, NativeScript, React, Flutter, and there's a number of them. But Plurilogic finally chose to work with PhoneGap, Apache Cordova, which is our cross-browser development framework of choice. All right, this is a little architecture that demonstrates the Cordova architecture and how we work with this framework to build our application and third-party tools. On the left, top left, there's a grouping there called Web App. This is the part where the application code resides. The application itself is implemented as a web page that references CSS, JavaScript, images, media, and other resources that are necessary for it to run. In our case, our UI was built using Google's Angular application development framework. Right under it is the web view. The web view is the HTML rendering engine that provides the application with its entire user interface. We can also mix WebView with native application components. So this way we can build hybrid applications. On the right, there's a grouping called Cordova plugins. That's the integral part of the Cordova ecosystem, which for us, it was one of the main reasons we chose Cordova. It's basically an interface for WebView to communicate with native resources. For example, you can see here a set of core components like the accelerometer, geolocation, the camera. So this way, developers can build interfaces to third-party components. In our case, we had to build the XenCore plugin. As you see, that's basically a bridge that allows us to talk to the native level, which is where the database engine, the XenCore engine resides, and we can make calls to it. Overall, we implemented a two data store system. We do use in-browser data storage using IndexedDB. IndexedDB is an API for in-browser temporary NoSQL data storage. It's also a low-level API, and it supports files, blogs. So that was our primary implementation of data store. But we also needed some sort of persistent storage, and that's where we started looking at other solutions, and we worked with SQLite initially. Which is a competitor of XenCore. But eventually, when XenCore was available in production, we are now fully XenCore, and which is also the main engine behind our data sync module. This is an important part of our solution, which allows the system to get all the feeds from the server. So we want to make sure that our device has up-to-date data. And there's also synchronization when, for example, a device is offline and goes online. We want to make sure that there's data integrity, and that if there's any conflicts, those conflicts are being resolved. It's a very, very key part of our overall solution. Okay. Here's a little example of how the code looks. If we could move to the next slide. I don't know, Andre, if you want to make any comments.
But in fact, basically, it's a simple, it's a really simple table that we're using. It's just simple. The key thing is that we replicate on the mobile device exactly the same data structure that we have on the server. So that's pretty simple to add some indexes and retrieve table. So you have on the second screen, we'll see that basically all what kind of operation what we can do, like this find, insert, update records directly. So that's that's a key to have the Zen core database inside the application, so we can easily synchronize offline and or not offline, but with the worker process to synchronize with the server itself. So we could switch to the next slide. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So basically, that's
yeah. We did a little once we had our first implementation. We did a little performance test to look at all the three options that we had implemented, starting with the IndexedDB, which is the in-browser data store, SQLite, which was our persistent data layer, and the newly introduced Axion Zen. We did a little benchmark using a little small data set, which is a subset of our the full student records. As you see here, it was a student ID, the first name, last name, the school name, and the date stamp. And we had 1,000 records that were read synchronously. And we only measured the median and average values for Android and iOS only. As you can see in the graph, Btrieve, which is Zen core, fared pretty well compared to IndexedDB, which was a kind of a surprise to us because IndexedDB is in browser. It's very, very low level, and it didn't have to go through the Cordova bridge. And based on our results for Android, for example, the performance was only slower two times on IIS, while SQL was and it was faster 5 times than SQLite. So Zen slightly slower than IndexedDB by 20 to 30%, which is a pretty good result in our opinion. I don't know if you want to make a comment here, Andre, for the.
Yeah, no, but basically that's the test that we've done, so that with comparing the IndexedDB, and I think there will be some other on the next slide on the persistence of
the graph clearly tells that we're close to IndexedDB and fare a lot better than SQLite.
Yeah.
Now, based on our use case and our implementation challenges, we have some lessons learned that we'd like to present. So IndexedDB, we observed that IndexedDB is a very fast data storage solution. It's an asynchronous API performing costly operations that won't interfere with the UI thread, which is very, very important. Although IndexedDB is fast and it's useful for storing smaller amounts of data, we found that for a data-centric application, we need persistency, and IndexedDB cannot offer persistent data solutions. Hence, the process by which the browser decides how much space to allocate, for example, for the web data storage and what to delete when that limit is reached is not simple and differs between browsers. That's an unknown. And IndexedDB, although the API has been changing, new browsers come out, new technologies, so we cannot control support and compliance. So the conclusion is that IndexedDB is not 100% persistent, while SQLite and Btrieve are. Other considerations are that IndexedDB file and therefore data table size was limited by Android. Only a third of the available disk is available, and half a gigabyte on iOS. SQLite has no theoretical limit. Through empirical data says 1 terabyte is an upper limit, while Zen has a practical limit of 64 terabytes.
But then you have to have a telephone with 1 terabyte of storage, so that's pretty rare, I would say.
And finally, both persistent cross-platform options, Zen and SQLite, introduce a performance penalty. Although for Zen it's modest, it's very close to IndexedDB, while SQLite is quite noticeable.
Yeah, just say that for the size of the database is important for us because we have a lot of picture, and also as we have the email system with the attached document inside it. It could we keep 3 months of emails with that attached on it, so like pilotation, I would say. So that's important to have a lot of the space available for the database.
Yeah, I think the key message here is that IndexedDB is a temporary solution for data store. But when we want big data, in our case, for example, we want the teachers, we want administrators to have at any time data available to their device. We need something that's secure, something that's performant, and something that's reliable. And Zen offers that robust data permanent solution. Right. So here is a little roadmap of what we have in plan for the ZenCore plugin. We want to optimize the ZenCore plugin. We want to minimize the amount of data that is being moved from the web view to the database by chunking, by grouping data operations, and having those operations done at the native level. We want to improve the usability of the ZenCore API on Cordova. We want to simplify it. We want to make it a lot more easy to make calls. So we want to have a full ORM with a lot of functionality. ORM being an object relational mapping interface. And finally, we would like to make the plugin available on other frameworks and other development frameworks like React, Flutter, and Xamarin, depending on client needs.
Yeah, and this is Louis Carrigan. Just, I think one thing that's worth mentioning to everyone is because we've worked with Pluralogic for literally decades, we tend to use some of the terminology and specifics about the products very loosely because we've simply just been around it so long. So when we talk about the btrieve API, we are essentially talking about our NoSQL access methodology, the API to do NoSQL. And we're equating that oftentimes with ZenCore, but to be clear, our NoSQL btrieve API is a characteristic of a feature, or rather the way that you access the functionality of the underlying database engine for all versions of Acti and Zen. So and that includes obviously backward compatibility to all versions back to 1994 for pSQL. So I just want to make that, make sure that distinction is clear in the minds of everyone in the audience. In terms of what we're doing next for ZenCore, we actually have done a very significant update to it as of this month, which is, as you saw in what Pluralogic put together, their Cordova plugin makes use of the btrieve API, therefore it makes use of the NoSQL capabilities. We've actually added SQL capabilities now, the same full set of SQL capabilities that we have with any of the other versions of Zen, and therefore our entire product line is able to do both NoSQL and SQL. The other thing that we've done is we've made ZenCore royalty free for both development and deployment. So if you are considering, because I noticed there was one question that I was getting separately, and so I just rebroadcast it into the chat box, which is the Zen Cordova plugin that's been built by Pluralogic can be used and accessed from Pluralogic to leverage with any application you're building to handle any of the other sets of widgets or functionality that you saw with Cordova, such that if you have your own camera or other device where Pluralogic's use that plugin to therefore store that and synchronize that data persistently locally on the device with ZenCore, you could do that yourself for whatever your actual application against whatever devices or resources it has. I know you've heard about how Pluralogic has used IndexedDB, how for a while they were using SQLite, and then based on several decision factors, they decided to move from SQLite to Actian Zen Core. As a side note, we have a performance benchmark that also goes through a lot of the other comparisons and contrasts of functionality, and also a solution brochure that talks about the differences between SQLite and Zen Core, which will document many of the same reasons and the final rationale that Pluralogic used to move from SQLite to Zen Core. So I won't go through this in detail now, but as you can see, as you look down this list, there's a lot more that you gain for the small performance hit you take in doing something that's much more robust and persistent and can scale and do both the client and a server functionality with Zen Core versus something like IndexedDB. So, you know, the point we want to make is that everything we're talking about here has delivered a mobile front end for Pluralogic that's fascinating. That same mobile capability may be necessary for some of the applications or the products and their internal applications that you may be building, designing, or servicing out there in the audience. So what we would recommend is that you really look at downloading and playing with Zen Core yourself. We have plenty of collateral, documentation, and even tutorials that would support you in doing that. And then also you can download the Pluralogic plugin for Zen Core as well. So, you know, it's something you should consider. But right now what I'd like to do is open it up for questions. We have at least 10 minutes. And if we don't consume the entire time, the balance of the hour, then we will in early. But do you have any questions out there in the audience? And before I get to that, I have a couple of quick questions of my own for Sakis and Andre. So, you know, speed isn't everything, and I was wondering, you know, we do have the performance benchmark on our side that we had done. Right? We didn't run it ourselves. We had it done by a third party that shows Zen is far faster than SQLite. But I would assume that, you know, given that you have to support these school systems. And you have to maintain or desire to maintain a long-term relationship with them. You know, at any given time, performance is going to be great, and then it's going to go down over time based on whatever resources are being used, the underlying hardware. So performance isn't everything. What were some of the other deciding factors that you had for shifting from SQLite to Actian Zen, other than, you know, the relationship that we have?
I think the data synchronization is a very complex process. So it was easier for us to, in fact, because the database was, I would say, more near from the server version. It was easy to synchronize data from the mobile to the server. So that was the key reason why we go to the Zen Core for doing that.
Yeah, we have a big legacy that was built using Zen, and we wanted to stay within a homogeneous environment, and having a subset of our centralized data on the mobile devices. Under the same technology is key for us.
Yeah, in fact, just to illustrate the complexity of these synchronization, we had a lot of a new index inside the server, and now we don't directly delete any records. We just mark it as deleted, so it's easy for the mobile application to say, oh, this record has been deleted, so I will delete it myself on the data. So there's a lot of new variables and new things that we had to our database just to make sure that the synchronization process was efficient and rapid. So rapid
right.
is important for us.
That would also then mean you could have someone that has a kid that accidentally deleted something that you're able to then recover it.
Yeah, of
course.
Yeah.
And kids never accidentally delete things and then beg you to recover them.
Even administrators don't delete accidentally.
So I have one other quick question for you here. So if you're locally storing information on an administrator's system or even the teacher system, that could include things like grades and certifications and other things that are confidential?
Sure, definitely.
Okay.
There's a lot of confidential data inside our,
Okay.
and that's another thing also that we don't mention during the conference, but it's the data inside Zen are more secure than one for IndexedDB. IndexedDB, it's using on the memory, so it could be hacked more easily than Zencore. Zencore, it will be very difficult to hack Zen database or access directly around it.
Okay, I see. So I should say, you know, that's a, you know, as a moderator with a conflict of interest here, since I'm with with Actian, the reason I was asking that is I was just curious to see if that security means something for us. We have just in the latest version of this added the AES 256-bit encryption, and we were going back and forth. Oh, do we need to really move up from 192, and even before that from 128? Is this a feature that our OEM partners would find useful? And it's nice to get ratification, verification, you know, confirmation that's the correct thing. I'm trying to see, I don't see any other questions. I think at this point we can wrap up. I want to really, again, reiterate our thanks to Andre and to Sakis for taking the time out of their busy day and dealing with all of the schools that they work with and continuing to innovate on their products. And we hope to, you know, keep up with the requirements necessary to keep Pluralogic and therefore their customers happy. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to send them directly to me, and I will, after the fact, try to get them over to Pluralogic if we are unable to answer them ourselves. I'm putting my email address into the chat box right now. It's Lewis, lews.carr@actian.com. Again, Andre, Sakis, thank you so much. And at this time, we are concluding this webinar. Hope all of you have a great day and a great year.
Thank you, Lewis.
Thank you.
Thank you.